Good afternoon. Welcome back to Passionate World Talk Radio Network, a wholly owned subsidiary of Global Media Network, LLC. Educate, enlighten, entertain. And today, on Lest We Forget Historical, your host, Lillian Cauldwell, we're going to discuss about Mr. Trump's statements about Springfield, Ohio, and that the Haitians who've moved in, quote, taken over the city, unquote, are eating the pets of this city in Ohio. Now, this comes from a well-known newspaper, and this is an opinion piece done by two authors. And you can find this information over at https://passionateworldtalkradio.com/blog. And all the information you need to check the contents of this podcast is over there. Also included is the video and also the audio. So not only can you read and confirm what you just or will be hearing, but you know that this is an opinion piece. So what is the deal with the potential candidate, or I should say candidates, of the Republicans, Mr. Trump, and his vice president pick, Mr. Vance? They claim that the Haitians are eating dogs because they can't afford to buy any food. Now, numerous news outlets have proved this to be false. However, in my experience in the broadcast media business, I know that people choose to believe what they want to believe. And it serves the purposes of the strict immigration policy that Mr. Trump has, that the Haitians are savages and eat dogs. My opinion is they eat dogs in several other Asian nations, and people who do not like dog meat should be very careful about how they throw stones in glass houses, because in India, cattle are worshipped and revered. And I know that they shudder when they hear that Americans eat the meat of cows and the meat of pigs. It's what the person's social and cultural experience and history dictates to them. In fact, even in the United States, within our past history, people have been known to boil their shoes and eat the shoe leather, kill their horses and eat the horse meat. And yes, if desperation sets in, they will eat their dogs. Now, we all know the adage that snake tastes like chicken, or pork loin cuts from the pig. So with a stretch of the imagination, people eat whatever is available for them to eat. But to spread misinformation about the fact that Haitians are eating pets because pets rank higher on the scale than women and children. How do I know this? Because I know in Houston, Texas, when I lived there from the 70s all the way up to the 80s, 74 to 89, I can tell you exactly that people believe what they think is aligning with their principles, with their theories, their opinions, and don't really question where the source of this information is coming from or where the information is supporting the facts that are being represented by the people who are speaking. So let's take a look at what they say in their articles. And the first thing out of these journalists' mouths are, many cities have been reshaped by immigrants in the last few years without attracting much notice. Well, it seems to me that Mr. Potential President Hopeful Trump and his candidate, Mr. Vance, went searching to find information that will blacklist the U.S. immigration policies. And let's not forget that immigration is as old as time. That is why the people of France gifted us the Statue of Liberty. Yes, the Statue of Liberty, and for what it stands for. Or maybe that's the reason why Mr. Dickens wrote A Christmas Story involving 3 ghosts, and one ghost in particular who dealt with the poor and the hungry. Let us move on. They go on to say that it's a story of economic renewal, and that all renewals have growing pains, and that these people who wanted to taint their opposing candidate, who was also running for president, and she's, whoops, a woman. How did that happen? I bet they're asking themselves. A different type of reaction to Margaret Thatcher, who was hailed by all the citizens of England and who have since decided she is the best woman prime minister that the world has ever seen. I digress. Let's move on. So the rumors about the Haitians as immigrants moving into Springfield, Ohio, was purposely reworded so that the gullible swallowed it hook, line, and sinker, the way you catch a fish, which also swallows the bait that is attached to the hook that's sank to where the depth of where the fish are. I think you see the picture. Okay. And they announced with great aplomb that the immigrants are eating their neighbors' pets. And this was on Tuesday. And he exasperated the fears of the people who lived there originally, who I might add, as a side note, are immigrants also. They are not the original inhabitants of these United. But let's keep going, shall we? And he indicated that these Haitians were taking jobs away from the residents of Springfield at factories. They were driving up housing costs. They were worsening the traffic and dividing the predominantly blue-collar white city of about 60,000. Now, we have a federal law saying it's against the law to discriminate anyone, including people of color. I doubt that many Haitians are driving because they can't afford cars. And if they are adding to the traffic problems, I would think that because of their expansion, probably new office building or new homes are going up. So that really would not affect them one way or another. What I'm saying is he's putting a spin on his words. If you have not read 1984, I suggest very strongly you march down either to the library or to Kindle and pick it up and read it. It's called Aryan language for a reason. And to protect yourself from the malicious lies, rumors, and misinformation that one is now encountering in possible election, or I should say the potential election between two candidates, I want to wonder why he's not telling me how he's going to help boomers, as if we do not exist. And yes, Mr. Trump, you are part of the baby boomers. You qualify. What? You're 78, 79? Yes, I think you qualify. You are a baby boomer. And while it's very noble not to tax overtime, what does that say to the baby boomers who were taxed all their lives on their overtime? Maybe you can reimburse us for the money that was taken out of our paychecks when we were asked or demanded that we remain after work and put in overtime. Just a thought. The article goes down to, at the city's Haitian Community Help and Support Center, Rose Tamer Joseph said many of the roughly 15,000 immigrants who arrived in the past few years were drawn by good jobs and the city's relative affordability. But she goes on to say, a rising sense of unease has crept in as longtime residents increasingly bristle at newcomers taking jobs at factories, driving up housing costs, worsening traffic, and straining city services. Some of them talk about living in fear. Some of them are scared for their life, which is the very reason why these Haitians came up to immigrate in the first place. They feared for their lives. Their jobs were non-existent. The United States of America is built on the principle of immigration. That's how we populated our country, from the Pilgrims to Roanoke Colony, to the Irish, the Italians, the Russians are coming, the Chinese, the Italians, the Spanish, all of Europe, including Eastern Europe, have come to the United States to make a better life for themselves, so they can eat, educate their children, and see that they are treated with the proper respect one should receive as a citizen of the world. Hopefully to make the United States their permanent home. And before we close out today's opinionated episode, I want everybody to think about our invasion of space, outer space, with the idea being that maybe we shouldn't be selling off land parcels on the moon or Mars, because those planets may have already been claimed by another race who have already done that. And who are we to say, just because there's no one there, that we have the right to proclaim it as our own? The last time I read any history books, I did not see where we privately or publicly owned all of outer space to be our next United States or next England or Portugal or China or Russia. It seems to me we're putting the cart before the horse. And just because no one is answering our signals does not mean that the coast is clear and that we have the right to take and possess, which seems to be mankind's approach to everything. Thank you very much for listening to Lest We Forget Historical with your host, Lillian Cauldwell, based on an article. And you can find the information again, plus listen to the video and the audio over at https://passionateworldtalkradio.com/blog. Or you can also listen to this at youtube.com/PW Radio Network _ PW Talk Radio. You can also hear it on all our social media, linkedin.com/Passionate World Radio or /Lillian Cauldwell over, and facebook.com/Passionate World Radio, facebook.com/Lest We Forget Historical. I want to thank you for joining us this afternoon. This program is brought to you by two sponsors. One, The Obstacles of Podcast Training. And you can find all the detailed information at https://education.passionateworldtalkradio.com/masterclass. Sign up today. What are you waiting for? And for my Flex Connection, https://esc73.tryruby.ai. The perfect and complete package of artificial intelligence. Try it. You'll love it. Thanks again, and have a great weekend.